So if you're like me, you're like, man, this is really easy. All I'm doing is basically making the same blocks. Well, let's get into something fun when we're actually going to kind of ask the user if they want to reset their password in a significant place. So we're not just going to add a button that says reset password. We're going to do it if they enter a password that's incorrect. So if they try to log in with an incorrect password, we're going to give them the option to actually reset their password. And I'll actually show you this alert real quick. So if you come to alert.password, here I have a title of warning, and I have an option for them to reset the password, which is dangerous, so it'll show as red, and then a button to cancel. So this is what we're going to display if they get that password wrong when they try to log in. Alrighty, so we're going to be working within that login button click, and we're going to be modifying this if statement. So whenever they try to log in, we're going to try and sign them in, and then we're going to update this if statement here. So if there's not an error, so if no error is returned, good to go. But we want to check when the error is returned. If there is an error, does that contain the word password? So let's go ahead and add that check in there. So we'll say if, and then we'll go to our text blocks. Does text contain? So does the error contain password? And then if it does contain password, we want to show this new alert message, this other alert message, so alert.password. Before we show that, we want to enter into the message the error that is returned, and then we can show that alert password. And if you remember, we have two options there. They have the option to reset the password or cancel. So if they want to reset the password, let's go ahead and add that check in. So if was confirmed, then we want to kick off the process to reset the password. And that's actually the Firebase block here. So if they want to reset the password, if that was confirmed, we will call the reset password block, and the item that's inputted here is the input email. So we'll send Firebase the email of which they want to reset the password. And then what Firebase does is it sends them an email with a link to reset that password. So I would like to go ahead and let the user know that they need to go check their email. So here we're going to update the message of warning. So this is the other alert message. Set message to, and let's actually just get right in the message here. So we'll say, please check your email for a link to reset your password. So now all we need to do is just update this if statement to add the else block, and then else we want to add in these blocks. So if the error contains the word password, we'll go through this part of giving them the option to reset the password. If it does not contain password, meaning it's another type of error, we're just going to display that normal error. All right, so let's go ahead and check this out. So I'll enter in Darren at test.com. Enter the password. That's incorrect, so I'm trying to test it. So incorrect password, try to log in. It says the password is invalid or the user does not have a password. So we have the option to either cancel or reset the password. So let's choose reset password. Why is that not working? I just noticed my mistake here. So here we're updating the message, but we never showed the message. So let's go ahead and update that. And so let's try that process again. Type in the wrong message, try to log in. Then we can reset the password, and now it displays that error message. So please check your email for a link to reset your password. Alrighty, well, as promised, we have gone through the sign up, the sign in, the sign out, and the reset password. And so now we're going to jump into 3 different things that you can add that will kind of spice the login or the authentication process up just a little bit more. here on login, you can see there's this little check, this little flag called is email verified. So if for any reason you want to have your users have a valid email, then you can use this feature that we're about to talk about. Personally, for the most part, I'm going to be using this authentication just for like a storage purpose, so that I can store data along with the authenticated user. I don't really care if they have a valid email or not, but if you do, here's how you can make sure that they have verified their email before they actually access your app. We're going to update this block here, so if not error, before we navigate to the screen, we want to add another check. So we'll say if is email verified. So if it's verified, we will navigate to the screen. Else, we will display a warning message. So let's go ahead and update the message. And we'll add in a text block. We'll say, please verify your email, my friend. And then we need to show that warning message. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and create an account with with my real email, or one of my real emails, so that we can actually go into the email and I can show you the verification process. So Darren@amblemind.com. We'll say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That will create the account. And so the first time through, it lets you in. But what happens when we log out and I enter that again? So Darren@amblemind.com. Password 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Log in. So now it says, please verify your email. So let's go over to my email right quick, and we should see the email that was sent to me. Alrighty, so here on my email, we can see verify your email for ViruPass. And we have a link where we can verify the email. Let's press that. That will send us to another page. And then it says, boom, your email has been verified. So now let's try logging in with that account again. All right, so log in. And awesome, so the check for the email is verified, passed, and it sent us to the other screen. Thing number 2. I've been making this video and I've probably entered the email and the password 10 times. Now, if your users are using this app every day, it's going to get really annoying having to enter that every time. So what if there's a way where we could pre-populate the email and the password with whatever the user's password is, so they could choose to log in with it, or they could enter another one and log into another account. So let's go ahead and add that feature where we pre-populate those fields with the email and the password. So to do this, we want to add a local stored variable. So we'll go ahead and create a new variable. We'll call the stored variable login info. And what we want to do is store the email and the password in this variable every time the person creates an account or they log in. So since we're doing that in 2 places, let's go ahead and create a function to do that saving. So we'll call the function store login. And all this function is going to do is store in our stored variable, store login info. We're going to create an object to store the email and the password. So we'll add 2 properties. One will have the name email and the other will have password. And in these, we're going to input the email and the password. All right, and then we want to call this function, like I said before, on a successful creation of account or successful login. So we'll go here, grab store login, and we'll put this in the success create account, and then also in the success for button login. So what this does is save the email and password whenever a user successfully creates an account or logs in. Now the last thing to do is to actually pre-populate those fields, email and password, with whatever email and password we have stored. So for this, we want to do this whenever the screen starts up. So we'll come to screen login. Whenever screen starts, we will update input email. From input email, get text. And then we're going to grab a property from a stored object variable. The property we're going to grab is this one right here. So email. And what is the object? The object is our stored variable. So we can duplicate this for password. So input password, set text to the property password of the stored variable. And then one thing to do for good practice is to, before we actually do this, let's check and make sure that there's actually something in the variable. So this accounts for the case when it's the first time the person opens the app. We don't want to be populating these fields with some trash text. So let's go ahead and add a check before we do this. And we'll say if that stored variable, we want to check to see if it's not equal to null, we'll do this. So we'll come to our logic blocks, add in a not equals comparator. Let's go ahead and grab the null here. So if stored login info is not equal to null. Awesome. So now whenever the screen starts up, the first time it shouldn't show nothing. And then upon a successful login or account creation, it should store that. And then the next time we come to the screen, we should see things pre-populated. Let's open up the app and see if what we want to happen happens. Alrighty, so we have the screen open. Let's go ahead and enter in a email that we know works. Let's do darren.test. Oh, nope, because we have that email check. Let's do darren.amblemind.com. Add in our password of 123456. So now we log in. That works. Now when we log out, we go back to that screen. It should pre-populate with that information. So this is just a easy way for you to have your user log in. Now one thing you could do is, if you wanted to automatically log in the user, is on the screen starts, after you've populated the fields, you could call this sign in function. So you could add the sign in that would automatically sign them in. We're not going to go through that, but you could definitely do that if you wanted to use that feature in your application. All right, we are here for the last cool feature that I'm going to show you that you can add to your sign-in feature in your app. Now, I've been filming for exactly 53 minutes and 55 seconds, and my computer is freaking out. So I'm ready to wrap this up, but I want you to stick around because we're about to be done, and I think you're going to like this one because it's going to help us in the next few videos when we are going through the real-time database. So this is really the reason you want a sign-in, a sign-in feature in your app. You want to know the user so that you can then store data for them. And what we have not talked about is this little guy right here, this user ID block that is available whenever we log in. So upon successful logging in, Firebase will return to us the user ID. So if we go to Firebase, we can see here for my accounts that I've created, we can actually see a distinct user ID here. Now this is not something you'd want to display on the screen, though we will. This is something that you can use to distinctly identify a user when you're storing their data. So what I'm going to do is go ahead and create a new variable, and we'll call this variable user ID, and we will set it to null. Now we want to populate this whenever a successful login is done. So we'll add here app user ID is equal to user ID. So now we've stored the user ID in the variable, and now what we want to do is on the next screen, is where we can actually use this user ID. So let's go ahead and create, just so you can see that how it works. On our screen, let's go ahead and add a when screen starts block. And let's go ahead and display this variable on the screen. I have a label here for welcome. So from welcome, let's set this to that user ID. So I'm just going to show that we have a user ID now. But what this allows you to do is, and you'll see this in my later videos, so be sure to check those out, store data with that user ID as the key so that whenever the user logs in, you can go to your database, call the information for that user ID, and display it to the user. Screen opens, it pre-populates my email and password. I can go to log in, and here you can see, instead of that welcome message that was there before, we have the user ID that was returned from Firebase. And if we actually go back and look, we can see, 0GW. If we look at the app, 0GW, it's the same thing. So that's how you can grab the user ID that's returned from Firebase, from the sign-in component from Firebase, to use it in your app. Now, if you have completed this video and you are adding the sign-in component to your app, you are really down in the trenches working on your app. And I know when I get to places like this, it's really hard for me to lose sight of the goal, lose sight of the path forward. And so I actually created a resource that I wanted to use, and I want to share it with you. It's called my Idea to App Store Guide. And it's a 6-step guide with a ton of resources that shows you, exactly what you need to do now, what you need to do next to take your app idea and actually get it to the App Store. So I know that this is something I think you could benefit from. And if you think that you could benefit from it too, you can go ahead and download the Idea to App Store Guide following the link that is down in the description. Alrighty, in our next video, we're going to add in the real-time database Firebase component to our app. We're actually going to start storing information for our authenticated user along with some other stuff. So be sure to check out that next video when it comes out. Well, thank you for sticking around for this extended sign-in component masterclass. I wish you the best in your app creation process, and happy coding.